city of Suffolk and Isle of Wight County, technically outside of North Carolina, but close enough that we're going to include Hampton Roads and coastal Virginia in our coverage zones for today. This is a spin-up tornado that is on one of these little feeder bands that is out in front of what is the remnants of Tropical Storm Michael, still producing some strong gusty winds and flooding, lots and lots of flooding across North Carolina. But the main threat right now is this storm located pretty much right over the Suffolk airport, moving north towards downtown Suffolk. So as you come on 58, you're coming out of Bowers Hill and going into the city of Suffolk. This is going to be right where you get past the downtown area. You're passing those stoplights, and then you're heading into some of the more farmland that's on the western side of the city of Suffolk. It's also kind of where that traffic trap usually is too. Areas up towards there along 58 are going to be impacted by this, where 58 and the business route of 58 come together. So this potential tornado is a radar indicated tornado. You can see here on the radar some strong gusty winds here on the eastern side, and then a little bit of a weaker signature here on the western side. We'll switch to storm relative velocity, and there you can see a decently well-defined couplet just over the Suffolk airport. This is moving north towards the city of Suffolk, the western side of the city of Suffolk. New radar scan just in, and the couplet looks to be right about there. Now, it's a little bit weaker than it was earlier. We're going to take you back in time here, and I'm going to step back towards when this was pretty much going over the state line. That's when the Weather Service in Wakefield started to warn on this, and you can see it's kind of cycled a little bit here, a little bit broader, a little bit stronger, but certainly a storm that has the potential to produce a brief, weak tornado here in the city of Suffolk. Moving into Isle of Wight here if this storm holds on its current track. Seeing a little bit of some CC lowering there, which may be indicative of a little bit of debris, but kind of hard to tell until we get another scan in here in just a couple of minutes to see if there's actually something there or if this is just kind of a false reading. The ZDR, the correlation we would see between it, is not very good. So we're going to kind of just call that one probably not a debris signature right now. A tornado watch continues for a large portion of eastern Virginia, eastern North Carolina. Let's switch sources here, and I'm going to pop up our GR Earth application, and we'll show you the map here of the tornado watches in effect. All of these red areas here under a tornado watch. I'll turn off the radar and turn off the warnings, and you'll see those areas here. This is a tornado watch is in effect until 9 p.m. tonight. For all of central Virginia, eastern Virginia, and most of central North Carolina, and all of eastern North Carolina from basically Jacksonville north and east to the state line there in Currituck, Pasquotank, and Perquimans counties. We also have more storms ongoing across the state of North Carolina right now. We have this band of storms that is stretching basically from Greenville down into New Bern. That band could produce some brief, weak tornadoes, so we'll watch that one carefully as it moves to the northeast here. Also, this area of storms back towards Danville has had quite the punch this afternoon. I'm going to turn on our warnings once again. In this area, under a severe thunderstorm warning for portions of the Reedsville, Rockingham County area, Caswell County also included in this, and then stretching up into portions of North Carolina and Virginia, excuse me, up into Virginia towards the Danville and South Boston areas. But this severe thunderstorm warning is issued for the potential of some strong gusty winds up to around 70 miles per hour. What's happening here is as Michael's circulation is moving to the north and east, there's a little bit of some instability working with this system on the backside. There's some interaction with a cold front, and that's causing the storm to strengthen a bit on the western side and some strong gusty winds to be brought down to the surface. We'll loop this for you, and what you're going to see is kind of that band formed basically right over Greensboro, and now it's kind of moved up into more of the Danville area. But this band of thunderstorms isn't moving a whole lot, and this band of strong gusty winds is not moving a whole lot. So as this progresses off towards the east into portions of the Roxborough community, Henderson later tonight, I believe, maybe towards Roanoke Rapids, there's going to be the potential for some strong gusty winds with that storm as it moves through portions of central North Carolina and then eastern North Carolina. Back to our tornado warning here across the city of Suffolk and the city of Suffolk and Isle of Wight County. This is for the extreme southern portions of Isle of Wight, basically right over downtown right now is where this potential tornado would be located. Areas that could be impacted further north include Kings Fork, Elephant Fork area, the Murphy Mill Road area. Kenyon, you're on the far western side of this little area of rotation, but you're close enough to where you're going to want to take it, be careful with this. because we could see the potential tornado move over those areas as well. I'm going to switch back to some of our higher res model data and radar data here. And you're going to see a closer inspection of this storm here, right over basically downtown Suffolk, between downtown Suffolk and the Suffolk airport is where this storm would be located, right where there's a few of those on ramps and off ramps as you get towards US 58 business, the business route going north into Isle of Wight and kind of going around the city of Suffolk. If you go towards the Kingsport community.
Tornado warning for eastern Rockingham County in north central North Carolina.
Tornado warning.
Caswell County
so
in north
let's
central
jump over
North
to that
Carolina,
one.
The city of Danville, south central Virginia.
Ricky, and hello and good afternoon to our viewers as well. James Brierton with you here from Charlotte. It does seem like all of a sudden, Ricky, that tornado watch that's been in effect is coming into a factor here.
Yeah, and this is a big tornado warning. In fact, there's really not a ton of well-defined couplets with this. What the Weather Service in Blacksburg is doing is they're issuing this tornado warning on kind of a wide scale for the potential of several tornadoes based from Dansville down towards Yanceyville. I'm going to switch over couple different products here, and this is NROT. So what you're seeing here is a potential tornado to the east of Danville, maybe some rotation near the Pelham community. So these are kind of like quick spin-ups along the leading edge of a line of storms. And so very hard to spot these, very hard to warn for them. The only way we're probably going to spot them is if they loft something in the air, unfortunately, because they're just not great defined couplets here. With the exception of maybe this one to the east of Danville. So interesting to see them warn them like that, Jared, or excuse me, James, as they...
It's been a long 24 hours. I almost just called you Scotty. But, you know, what is interesting about it, Ricky, is we did get a local storm report within the last hour or so from the emergency manager there in Rockingham County, reporting damage that he or she suspected was from a tornado, and the National Weather Service passed that along. That came in about the same time frame that we got those yellow boxes there on the screen, the severe thunderstorm warning. So it is interesting to note, as you said, that they've gone ahead and kind of done this larger tornado warning, I think, because they are seeing these very quick spin-up tornadoes. And as we've been talking about throughout our coverage of Michael, in these tropical setups, these tornadoes happen so quickly that sometimes by the time you maybe or maybe not spot it on radar and get that tornado warning out, sometimes the rotation's gone already. So I think I understand why they're probably playing it safe here.
Yeah, very hard to warn for these tropical tornadoes because they do spin up very quickly, and sometimes they kind of just issue a severe thunderstorm warning and call that a day and say there could be a tornado possible in those severe thunderstorm warnings. We've seen that happen sometimes, and so you can get a tornado to touch down without a tornado warning, and a lot of times in these tropical environments. So going to want to keep an eye, if you live anywhere near these areas, on the radar for the rest of the evening hours, and stay tuned for possible watches and warnings that come out, because we could see several more of these severe thunderstorm warnings or tornado warnings issued as these storms push through portions of central North Carolina and eastern Virginia. I'm going to go and turn off a few of my things I have here. Turn off the counties. I know what I'm dealing with now as we get closer and closer towards portions of eastern Virginia, and switch back to another source here. So James, give me one second.
Absolutely. I can help walk people through this. So if you are just tuning in here at 3:45, it is October 11th, 2018. James Brierton with you from Charlotte, with Ricky Matthews from Bristol, and we're watching two tornado warnings. The one is actually in southeastern Virginia, not too far from Ricky's hometown area, and that is for the Suffolk area, and goes another 13 minutes or so. And we'll show you that one again here in a moment. Technically outside of the Carolina area, but we're obviously watching that closely because it is literally just across the border. The second tornado warning is the one we just got that will go until 4:30, so another 45 minutes or so, and this is for portions of eastern Rockingham County in north central North Carolina, Caswell County in north central North Carolina, as well as a few areas in Virginia. That's the city of Danville, that's Pittsylvania County, and Halifax County. Now, we were just talking about a moment ago that these tornadoes will be very hard to spot on radar and could be very quick, but that doesn't mean that they won't won't cause damage. We actually had the emergency manager in Rockingham County within the past hour or so report that they were seeing some damage in their area earlier this afternoon from about 3:20 or so, about half an hour ago, that they suspected was from a brief tornado touchdown. So that's why we're probably suspecting that the National Weather Service has gone ahead and issued this multi-county tornado warning there as they're watching some of these strong outer bands from Tropical Storm Michael moving across central North Carolina and south central Virginia.
Yeah, these little spin-up tornadoes happen very quickly, and sometimes they don't look very strong on radar, but they can produce a good amount of damage in a short amount of time as they move through. We'll switch back to that Suffolk storm here. I'm going to bring my other radar source in, and we'll zoom back into where this is going on. This is south of Kings Fork, pretty much right over where 58 business come together, heading north into the Kings Fork community. That's a pretty wealthy community there in the Kings Fork area of the city of Suffolk. And then it's going to be moving towards areas up towards Everett and Lake Prince Drive, and then eventually into portions of Isle of Wight. And there's a lot of farmland in Isle of Wight County. There's a good amount of farmland in Suffolk too, especially compared to Hampton Roads. But this area that's being impacted by this potential tornado is on the western side of Hampton Roads, and this warning continues for about another, let's see, till 4 o'clock, so about another 12 minutes or so for this tornado warning for the city of Suffolk and the Isle of Wight County area. Chuckatuck, you're going to be probably on the western side of this, or the eastern side of this, so I think Chuckatuck's going to be okay. Elephant Fork will probably be okay. It's really areas further towards the north, towards the Kings Fork community, that'll probably be the most likely to be impacted by this possible tornado as the system pushes to the north here.
Ricky, I know we were monitoring some storm chasers across Virginia. We actually had some on our program last night, coincidentally. So, you know, it's important to note that while we don't want the general public out chasing these things, one of the very important factors that will help the National Weather Service issue these tornado warnings and help us in the communication business relay that information to you are storm chasers, our storm spotters, our local partners, whether that be emergency management, fire departments, police departments, folks who are on the scene with eyeballs. Because as we've been talking about here, there is a lot on radar today, and these tornadoes spin up very quickly and can disappear just as quickly. So it's just a good reminder that today is another very important day where, as great technology that we have, it's really fantastic that we still have these human eyeballs on the ground that'll be feeding back information to us.
Yeah, radar only shows us so much. Sometimes it shows us the upper levels of the atmosphere, a couple thousand feet up too, when you get outside far away from the radar. So it's hard to see exactly what's going on sometimes as these storms move through. This one in Suffolk, I'll tell you what, I mean, you look on radar and it's like, boy, where's the rotation at all? Or excuse me, where's the storm at all? They kind of just look like little brief showers, but sometimes that's all they look like here with these tropical systems and these tropical setups. The tornado warning continues till 4 o'clock for the city of Suffolk and Isle of Wight. This is still in the city of Suffolk, advancing towards the north here into Isle of Wight. I'll be very interested to see if the Weather Service decides to continue this tornado warning or not. I have not heard anything from the Weather Service in Wakefield, whether they're going to continue the warning or whether they're going to be allowing this to expire. Kind of interesting to see them issue this based off that couplet, James, because we may be in for a long afternoon here, depending on how they decide to warn tornadoes here for the rest of the afternoon.
Yeah, it's very interesting also to see, you know, when we look at the Virginia radar here, we can see just how scattered these are. When we had that DOT camera earlier, the camera itself just down the street, it wasn't even raining. So, you know, in these outer bands, the outer reaches of Michael, things are still very scattered. But then when we look at the situation that's unfolding right now with the tornado warning over north central North Carolina, it's a completely different story where everything is just blanketed by rain.
And that tornado warning for the city of Suffolk has been canceled now. So let's go back to the one that is across parts of North Carolina here real quick and talk about that one. So tornado warning for Suffolk and Isle of Wight has been dropped. The Weather Service has decided that the rotation there has weakened enough to where they no longer think it poses a threat of a tornado. So that's good news there. Watching the storm still, though, across portions of central North Carolina, extreme north central North Carolina here. This is going to be for Caswell County and the eastern portions of Rockingham County, including the Reidsville area, Ruffin, Providence, Yanceyville, and Pelham. You're going to kind of see a couple areas of rotation here that are being indicated by radar. One would be kind of just to the east of Danville still, maybe something down towards Ruffin, and then up towards the Elmo community, potential for a tornado, quick spin-up tornado there. Very hard to spot these things. And I'm not seeing any debris still on radar here. I'm bouncing off of the Blacksburg radar right now. Unfortunately, it's pretty much smack dab between Blacksburg and the radar in Raleigh. So we're kind of in radar no man's land.
We're also in camera no man land. We have one camera that comes to us from the Virginia DOT right there at the state line near Danville, and last I checked, and I will give it another good effort, I wasn't able to connect to it.
Yeah, rough day when trying to find stuff up in this area here, and there looks like there was some type of rotation near Reedsville. That looks to have fallen apart for the most part. Or
out of curiosity, when you mentioned Reedsville, how far back is that going? Because I just did get the confirmation that it was Reedsville at about 3:20 where they suspected there was a tornado that caused some damage, and this was before that tornado warning polygon came out.
That was at 35 past the hour, but there's been so many little rotations, it may have moved through portions of that area a little bit earlier, so it wouldn't shock me. I don't think we can go back that far, but it wouldn't shock me if there was a quick spin-up tornado. One of our weather followers is pretty good across the state of North Carolina, WX Dam. He, Dennis Mazaru, I forget how to say his last name, but he tweeted out there was a good amount of damage in his area of Reedsville, so potentially he's where that tornado may have touched down or the strong winds came from the system, for sure.
Just looking at your map here, Reedsville still remains under this polygon, this tornado warning now until 4:30, but it also is going to include Yanceyville there in Caswell County here on the North Carolina side, and again, Danville, if you happen to be watching us, from the Virginia side of the border. Just checking back in, I know, Ricky, you talked earlier with the guys at... I guess it's North Virginia, Nova Storm Chasing. I don't see them live right now, but I know they were driving around this area not too long ago, so I was looking to see if we had an updated feed from them, and we'll continue to monitor for that to see if we can bring you any of their pictures if and when they are able to go back live on their Facebook page.
Of course, you know, the bigger threat, too, across a large majority of the area today has been flooding. Let's zoom out, and I'll show you all the flood warnings that are in effect, and there are a ton of them across parts of Central North Carolina, Western North Carolina. It's been a long day of severe weather and flooding going on. You can see the flood warning stretching from basically Charlottesville down south to Lynchburg, Danville being included in that, the Henderson area, Raleigh being included in that. So a large portion of the state of North Carolina under flash flood warnings. We have a flash flood emergency for the city of Roanoke right now ongoing due to numerous people who've gotten trapped in floodwaters and floodwaters flowing through residential areas and business areas. Bad situation there across the Lynchburg area. Just got an update from the Storm Prediction Center saying that the risk for a few tornadoes does continue across the tornado watch area. Low-level center of Tropical Storm Michael crossing central North Carolina, moving in kind of an east-northeasterly fashion. The breaks in the clouds across eastern Virginia and northeastern North Carolina have allowed for some destabilization of the atmosphere to occur. So they do believe that the greatest risk for tornadoes will reside over southeast Virginia over the next few hours. Some low-level rotations have been observed with some of the storms that have been moving across that area. Also, the potential for the band that's moving across central North Carolina from basically areas east of Greenville there down to Newbern could produce some brief tornadoes as well as it moves across south central and southeast Virginia and northeast North Carolina over the next couple of hours. So tornado watch continues until 9 o'clock tonight, and the tornado potential continues to ramp up with a few of these thunderstorm cells that are moving across parts of central Virginia and central North Carolina and also eastern Virginia right now with a few tornado warnings and severe thunderstorm warnings that have been in effect here over the past little bit. Look at all those flash flood warnings, though, and how many that have just popped up, especially across central North Carolina here over the past just a few hours as that heavy axis of rain has moved into the area from Tropical Storm Michael.
Absolutely, Ricky. Flash flooding is going to remain a concern along with these isolated tornado threats. We also have a new severe thunderstorm warning right now just issued by the National Weather Service in Raleigh.
Can you hear me? There's either some weird audio going on my end or your end, and it sounds like you are drinking helium.
Oh, well, that's how I get through storm coverage. I will toss it back to you, and I will troubleshoot that. You still got me, Ricky?
maybe check the feed for us here and see if you're coming out by that. And while you do that, I'll talk about this new severe thunderstorm warning that's been issued now for a portion of central North Carolina. Once again, basically areas east of Greensboro from Burlington, the Hillsboro, Chapel Hill included in this, the Pittsboro area, the Bennett community, Liberty included in the severe thunderstorm warning, Guilford County included in this. This is going to include portions of Almanance County, Orange County, Randolph County, and Chatham County as well. Until 5 o'clock tonight, potential for a severe thunderstorm capable of producing strong gusty winds and maybe even a quick brief spin-up tornado. 60-mile-per-hour winds now out of the question with this line of storms either as it moves south towards the east.
Ricky, I don't know if you're still hearing me in a funny, peculiar way, but I did just roll back our off-air, and it seems to be okay there. I'll defer to the comments of folks who are joining us on our live platforms to let us know if you're continuing to hear any problems. But I think it may be coming back through on your end where the particular problem is. But it did sound like you were just talking about that new severe thunderstorm warning, which, coupled with the other one, is a pretty decent amount of real estate here. And I can go ahead and do a measurement of that. So we do have right now two kind of side-by-side severe thunderstorm warnings that stretch from North Carolina into Virginia. And all in all, it's about 100 miles or so here. And you can see it on the screen there in yellow, outlined in yellow. There's a lot going on today if you've been watching radar. But it essentially stretches here from just outside the Raleigh area. Chapel Hill is included in this, and then continues northward through Yanceyville into Danville, Virginia there too, so about 100 miles or so. And the severe thunderstorm warning, again, is another way for the National Weather Service to let everyone know that they're suspecting wind damage and the possibility of some structural damage there as a result of this wind damage. It is coming up on 4 o'clock. You're watching live severe weather coverage from the Carolina Weather Group. I am James Brierton in Charlotte, North Carolina. We're along with Ricky Matthews, and we're tracking what continues to be severe weather rolling through the area. Ricky was mentioning a moment ago that we do have those isolated tornado threats that come up, but I think at the end of the day, the thing that most of us are going to see is this flood threat, because we have already saturated underlying soil left over from Florence and recent rainfall, and we have all of this precipitation that Michael is now bringing on top of that. And when you couple that with these wind gusts that we're getting, tropical storm force wind gusts at times in the range of about 40 miles per hour or so, it wouldn't take much, especially for a weaker tree, to kind of fall on over there. We're continuing to monitor here as we come up on the 4 o'clock hour. I think Ricky Matthews is troubleshooting a little bit on his end, and so we'll continue to monitor the situation that is unfolding here. But we do have right now, just in from the National Weather Service, a continuation of that tornado warning. This is for the city of Danville in Virginia, but also extends into North Carolina for Caswell and Rockingham counties. The update for the National Weather Service reads like this. Just a few moments ago, the severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located and moving quickly to the south at 25 miles an hour. A second storm capable of producing a tornado is now getting going near Ringgold, and that's also moving south at 25 miles an hour. Bear with me here. I'm going to look off to the side, and I'm going to go ahead and get radar back up here on the screen for you so we can show you exactly what it is that we are monitoring for. But these warnings will continue until about 4:30 or so. And so if you're watching from this area right now, it's important that you get to a tornado-safe area. So in a house, sturdy structure, you want to essentially find a place in your home that is as far into the interior as you can go, as many walls between you and the outside as possible. You will want to go as low in the structure as possible as well. So if you have a basement, that is ideal. If you don't have a basement, you want to try to get down to the first floor. We are also monitoring in our newsroom, the city of Columbia, South Carolina. Is worth mentioning that they're holding a news conference right now following the flooding that they have there. But since we don't have any real-time emergencies unfolding in Columbia right now, we're going to stay with this tornado warning here on the live platforms of the Carolina Weather Group so that we can continue to bring you that updated information. And then if anything newsworthy comes out of the news conference that is happening in Virginia right now, I'm sure our panelists Chris Jackson will share that with us coming up. So we just wanted to let everyone know that we are monitoring that, but we're going to stay with this tornado warning right now for north central North Carolina and south central Virginia. This is between Greensboro and the Durham area. If you're not too familiar with it and trying to figure out where we've got our radar zoomed in, you can see we're just north there and some of those more rural communities as you make your way up towards Danville, Virginia. What you're seeing on your screen here is radar from the National Weather Service. Let me explain. Obviously, you can probably make out what is rain there, but we have a couple other colors that are being outlined. You can see it flashing there in red. That is the area right now that is under the tornado warning. Then the second one, a little bit wider and a little bit harder to see with the actual rain, is outlined in yellow. That's a larger area that actually stretches north to south about 100 miles. That is a severe thunderstorm warning, which means that we're going to see winds of about 60 miles per hour or so that could cause damage. And then we also have blotted across that map in green. Those are flash flood warnings. So you can see that in terms of real estate, the flash flood threat is fairly large in that there is going to be localized flooding in all of those areas because of the consistent flooding that we are experiencing here because of Tropical Storm Michael. The circulation of Tropical Storm Michael is now making its way across central North Carolina. It is just to the south where this radar image is positioned right now. And so what we're watching for here is the threat for several things as we continue throughout the day. It is, of course, that flash flooding, that heavy rainfall accumulation as we continue to watch for the runoff and the way the tributaries and such will treat that. But we're also watching for the wind threat that will bring down trees and power lines across the area. And so we have power outages reported right now across both North Carolina and South Carolina. This tornado threat, by the way, which is isolated, is going to be highest to the east of the eye, essentially this top right quadrant, which is what you're seeing right now, because that's where we have the strongest opportunity in a tropical setup like this to see tornado activity. And that's kind of what we've been seeing. And we actually saw it start in the Carolinas early this morning, actually late last night. If you were with us on our live platforms, we had a few tornado warnings that stretched across South Carolina in areas like Charleston, Hilton Head rather, Orangeburg, and then even some closer to Spartanburg as we went through the early morning hours. And that was as Michael was still making its way out of Georgia and into the Carolinas. And now that that area circulation has moved into the Carolinas, it brings with it that tornado threat. And so that's kind of what we're seeing right now as we continue through the rest of the day. We are still watching for that flash flood threat, and that will continue across a large swath of North Carolina and upstate South Carolina, even as the stronger circulation moves its way out. So there is not an all clear if you're watching from those areas just yet, because we do have all of that rain that fell earlier, and it's going to continue to need to work its way out of the system here. I'm going to go ahead and switch radar sources for you so we can zoom in a little bit more localized here and show you what is going on as we continue to monitor this tornado warning. It's a dual panel, so we're looking at the same area on both the left and the right. The left-hand side is traditional reflectivity, the right-hand side is velocity, and that's actually going to allow us to see the winds inside this storm. And as Ricky was alluding to earlier, this particular area is a little difficult to see on radar. Radar beams, as they make their way from the originating source, get higher and higher up in the atmosphere. And as you might suspect, tornadoes are relatively low to the ground because by the time this radar beam gets to where we are, and let me take a measurement here from Raleigh first. The National Weather Service radar in Raleigh is going to be some 5,000–6,000 feet up in the air. And if we switch to the other source, which is in the area, relatively speaking, is going to be this one out of Roanoke, you can kind of see we're dealing with the same idea. We're going to be another 6,000 or 7,000 feet up in the air. So it's hard to kind of get an idea of exactly what they are seeing right now on the ground, but we can begin to take an estimate, and that's why Ricky Matthews was alluding to earlier, trying to use other types of radar that look for debris signatures in the air, but also looking for confirmation from folks on the ground to chime in with what it is that they are seeing. So we will continue to monitor this situation as it unfolds. We have a tornado warning that goes until 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time here for these counties as Tropical Storm Michael moves through the Carolinas. As I mentioned, we do have a news conference underway in Columbia, South Carolina. They had the impacts of Tropical Storm Michael a little bit earlier today. Let's continue to monitor the tornado warning, but let's take a brief listen into their news conference.
Incredible staff and all our partners did in preparing for the storm has helped to, again, mitigate some of the effects that we would normally see if we weren't involved in pre-staging areas that we knew were going to flood, and constantly communicating with our partners and our citizens. We saw moderate call volume to both the Columbia Police Department and the Columbia-Richland Fire Department. We certainly saw some significant flooding in places that we expected. Maine and Whaley, that area was blocked off, and we saw significant issues there because of precautionary measures in place. We're starting to see the benefit of some of the incredible investments to see and our ratepayers have been making over the last several years, and Mr. Shealy might speak to it as well. But over the last 5 years, the city has invested over $100 million in 4 specific sewer-related infrastructure projects. Today, those projects save the city about 20 million gallons of spillage reaching rivers and streams. So these types of smart investments in our infrastructure and our city are paying off for the long term. Proud to be joined by our entire team here. We'll go ahead and let everyone do their traditional updates. I'm also joined by, of course, by our educational leaders as well. We call this one, just as quickly as we call all the others, several of our partners in the conflicts. Everyone seems to be very happy with the results. We're fortunate. We're praying for those incredible images we're seeing come out of Florida and those who are still in the path of what's left of the storm. And we're going to continue doing the things that we do best. When we are out of danger, we're going to help our neighbors and our friends rebound from this storm. Go ahead and turn it over to Chief Over.
Good afternoon. What is 12 comments? Beginning about 4 a.m. this morning is when we started really seeing the effects of the storm. As the mayor said, our call volume was moderate. We answered 254 calls for service during the storm. We responded to 14 vehicle accidents, and that really is a fairly normal day for us. We had trees down. We would communicate quickly with forestry and our public works department and immediate response, and they got roadways clear. The sheriff asked that we share that they had similar experience, responded to a number of trees down in roadways, but they were quickly cleared. The pre-staging barricades at our areas we know are prone for high water worked remarkably well. We didn't have any water incidents, and we really appreciate the response we get from our citizens when we ask for their assistance. They really seem to pay attention and listen to our words of caution. And it was a great team effort today, and I'm glad to be a part of that team. Thank you. Chief James.
Good afternoon. I'll call volume between the hours of 5 and about 9 went about 57 calls, and at the end of the day we ran about over 100 calls between 4 o'clock and 4 o'clock. So again, we're glad that the public did take heed to what the safety measures that we were giving out to make sure you don't take care of the safety issues as far as candles and generators and stuff like that. We ran several calls, several power lines down, and several trees down as well. We also ran moderate smoke inside the structure due to electrical problems that they were having. But one call we ran was on Grand Avenue. We had a tree actually fell on the house. And I tell you, that was the guy was pretty fortunate because the bed that he usually lay in, that's where the tree fell, but he happened to not be in the bed at the time. But it was a good collaborative effort between the fire department, the Columbia Police Department, and forestry, as we had to extricate the person out of the house. So we're glad that he came out with just moderate, non-life-threatening injuries. So we're just glad that, again, that the public just gave heed to the orders. Thank you.
Assistant City Manager Ken Shealy, want to be awarded?
Good afternoon. I'd like to report that our call volume in our customer care center is very low. As of about 30 minutes ago, the wait time is less than 1 minute. So we're not experiencing a high volume of calls at this time, but if customers do have any issues, they can call 803-545-3300, report those, and we'll get right to it. On the drinking water side, we fared very well. We didn't have any service interruptions that we're aware of. We had a few minor power outages that were quickly resolved. Our Columbia Canal is in great shape, so things are looking really good there. On the wastewater side, when you have high-intensity rain events, it can be a real challenge for a collection system. We had, anytime you have surface flooding, it's tight as you try to keep your collection system, that water is going to flow into manholes. And so at our wastewater treatment plant, we did fare well, but we saw our flows increase from around 40 million gallons a day up to 120 million gallons a day in less than 6 hours. So it was a very steep rise in our flow rate there, but our staff handled that very, very well. In our collection system, we had, at the height of the storm, we had 10 of our pump stations without power. We worked with SC&G and appreciate them helping us so quickly. As of about an hour ago, we had 3 stations still without power. One was running on generator power, one off a diesel pump, and the other were pumping and hauling to make sure we don't have any wastewater escape the collection system there. During the height of the storm and the peak rainfall events and the inflow that happens with that, we did have 5 sanitary sewer overflows. Public notification was made for 4 of those per our requirements based on the volume. 2 were near Lake Catherine, one was in Penn Branch, one was near Crane Creek, and one was down off of Bluff Road. So notifications have been made, and I would like to reiterate what the mayor has said. I think specifically about the storage tanks that we put in several years ago with our Saluda River pump station. We put about 6 million gallons of wastewater in those storage tanks today. That would not have had a place to go had those storage tanks not been there, and so that would have escaped our system and gone to the environment. Speaking about that steep increase in flow in our wastewater treatment plant, had we not invested $43 million about a little over 5.5 years ago, we would not have been able to handle that increase in flow. And so that some of that wastewater would have escaped also. So the investments are paying off. We're not proud of any escaping, but we did have a few overflows. We're working on those, cleaning those up right now. Again, I would like to acknowledge our staff for their hard work. It was a tough evening and a tough day, but they've done a remarkable job, and I really appreciate their efforts. Thank you.
Robert Anderson, Director of Public Works.
Good afternoon. I also want to thank the citizens of Columbia, police and fire, and others for getting the calls out today to forestry and our street division. As of now, out of a little over 40 calls we've done, we've got about 3 spots left in town that we will clean up before the day's over. So tomorrow's a new day for us. We will actually go out again, start cleaning our storm drain system, start making sure that we break our storm drains and get everything opened back up. I also want to remind everybody tomorrow is the garbage collection day. That if your garbage was usually collected on Thursday, it will be collected on Friday. And if it was collected on Friday, please put your carts out. We will service them on Saturday. Thank you.
Several of our partners here today. Craig Witherspoon, Superintendent of Personal Market.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon. Certainly with the work of city and county staff with the trees and so forth, We didn't experience any damage to our building, so tomorrow we will be operating on normal schedule, regular schedule for students and staff. Tomorrow is a half day for students. That was already planned. Certainly want to thank our transportation and our maintenance staff whenever we have these types of events and we're trying to get people home. Our maintenance staff, security and transportation, they're out traveling the roads to see if we're able to, when we're able to resume normal operations. So we certainly thank them as well. And to our parents and everyone, again, thank you, so we can get back to the business of educating our kids. Thank you.
Dr. Christina Melton, Lexington, Richmond 5.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. What a strong statement this makes, that public education is included with announcements like this. So, Mayor, thank you for your vision. We thank all of our partners. We have had on-site reviews of all our facilities. We're ready to reopen tomorrow. Unlike my neighbors in Richmond 1, we have a full day for students tomorrow, for both students and staff. We do resume field trips tomorrow for those that have been pre-scheduled, and also athletic events will be resuming tomorrow evening. We ask our families to log into our website this evening because we will have an alteration with our lunch menu for tomorrow because our delivery was disrupted today. So families, if you'll log into our website this evening, you'll be able to see our updated menu so that you know what to expect on our menu for tomorrow.
Dr. Marshall Franklin, Richmond 2.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. District officials have assessed the conditions of our roads and campuses. We're grateful the impact of the storm is minimal and doesn't include anything that would prevent us from resuming standard operations tomorrow. When it comes to our employees and students, safety is priority 1, teaching and learning priority 2, and we look forward to returning to priority 2 tomorrow when we welcome back our employees and our 28,000 students operating on our regular schedule.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The comment, we're grateful for the work that the city was able to do and the county as it relates to the roadways. We did suspend service earlier this morning due to high winds and some congested roadway conditions. We did resume service at 11 a.m. and we are going to continue to have regular service tomorrow. If passengers need further information, they can contact us at 803-255-7100 for route and schedule information.
Of course, happy to be joined by Councilman Duval and Councilman Jackson from City Council and County Council, respectively. And Dalton Treasurer always here on behalf of Congressman Clark. Thank you so much. I'm going to wrap up, and then obviously I'm not sure if Director Tinsley and the city manager is going to want to have some final words. I want to thank the two of them specifically, Teresa Wilson and Eric Tinsley, the incredible work that they did, the constant communication, the constant sharing of needs and desires, the clear roles of responsibility everyone plays, focused on the very simple goal of keeping our citizens safe and alive and doing everything we can to protect public infrastructure and private property. It doesn't just happen. It takes incredible leadership, and these men and women assembled behind us working together are doing the great work. I will say this, our focus is regional. If you've had an opportunity to sit on some of the calls that we've had, we're not just talking about what happens in the four corners of the city of Columbia, but really aggressively trying to understand how lives are being impacted in this region, but also in other parts of the country as well. We leave here today very happy that there is no loss of life, but also very cognizant of the fact that several lives and families have been disrupted by the storm here in the Midlands of South Carolina. Some people have lost property that can never be replaced. Some will be suffering because of that. Several will lose days off of work in a very volatile situation. We want to make sure we're cognizant of that, and making sure that, I guess my plea is that anyone who's within the sound of this, if you can do anything, as an employer, as a neighbor, as a friend, as a family member, to help address the needs of some of our friends and family who may still be suffering because of the effects of Hurricane Michael, Tropical Storm Michael. let's make sure that we do that. Let's make sure we do that. To the microphone, City Manager, Teresa Wilson.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Danville. We just want to say thank you together, and I could not do the job I do. Certainly, we work as a team, and so I thank Mayor Benjamin and Mr. Duvall, all of City Council, County Council, for allowing staff to do their jobs. We take it very seriously as public servants, and I wanted to take this time too because I think it all.
Okay, we're going to step away from this news conference that has been taking place in Columbia, talking about their impacts that they had from Tropical Storm Michael earlier today, and return now to our coverage of the tornado warning. I have it up on your screen here. I've actually removed radar and tried to declutter this a little bit because there's a lot going on right now. And what I want to show you first is the tornado warning. It is the area in darker red. It's the tornado warning that stretches from the Danville, Virginia side of the border down into the Rockingham County side of North Carolina. This continues now until 4:30. We'll wait to see what the National Weather Service decides to do with regards to if they're going to continue this or not. This little tornado icon you see on here is a local storm report of suspected tornado damage that occurred at about 3:20 or so. In monitoring and in speaking with the National Weather Service, what we're also monitoring is that they have this larger severe thunderstorm warning out, and you can see that it stretches from just outside of Lynchburg, Virginia, back through Danville, Virginia, and back into North Carolina, and has actually been extended since we last looked at it. So not only is it including some of the counties here to northern North Carolina, but now also does include the Durham area. So as we get into this rush hour here, we should note that interstates, including 85, but also into the metropolitan area of Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, are all under this severe thunderstorm warning. And the reason I want to show this to you here, without the radar, without everything else going on, is because in the situation and the setup we're in, it's very difficult to pinpoint exactly where those damaging winds are on radar. However, the National Weather Service is reminding us, and we're reminding you, that the winds in this area are strong enough to cause structural damage to homes, buildings, and other structures. They're also strong enough to topple trees, and you also need, of course, to remember that it's been raining very hard for some time now, and the soil is very saturated, so it would not take much to probably topple some trees, and that's going to be another concern here too. So if you can, just stay put in this area right now until the threat has moved on through, because we do have our first confirmed death from Tropical Storm Michael in North Carolina. It happened in Iredell County when a tree fell on a car. Scotty Powell passing that along from our newsroom in the last hour or so. Let's go ahead and get that radar back up for you so you can have an idea of what it is that we are watching here for Rockingham and Caswell counties in North Carolina until 4:30, and you can see just how busy that radar is. But we are watching there in that red area, that polygon, that tornado warning. We also have now a flash flood emergency. That is the highest possible tier of a flood-related situation, and that has been issued just across the North Carolina border in the Danville, Virginia area. So while we, of course, are the Carolina Weather Group, when we're this close to the border, it is worth mentioning because I'm sure that, folks in this area have a livelihood that takes them back and forth across that border. Waiting here to see, I'm going to check in with the National Weather Service to see what their plan is here for the tornado warning itself, and it looks like, yeah, they've gone ahead and expired it, so it is still showing up on our graphic here, but the focus is going to be the severe thunderstorm warning, which is going to continue for some time, and it obviously includes a very large area. It goes until 5:15. The latest update here, and so this again is going to include portions of the suburbs of the Triad, but also the Triangle, and so we'll be watching this here as it makes its way across central North Carolina over the course of the next few hours or so. This threat is going to continue to move to the east, all associated here with Tropical Storm Michael. As you, of course, remember, it came ashore in Florida just yesterday as a very strong Category 4 storm and already in the Carolinas. This is a much faster moving storm than Florence was, so that is the saving grace as I look outside my window here and actually see the sun coming through the clouds in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's hard to believe just a few hours ago we had tropical storm force conditions here. Taking you over to radar scope again, this is that dual panel view with the caveat that it's a little hard to make out exactly where the strongest winds are because of the way the radar setup here is, but the Weather Service is concerned about this leading edge right here that is pushing away from Greensboro. That is a horrible arrow, and towards Durham, Chapel Hill, and this is going to be pushing here to the east over the course of the next few hours or so. You can see that leading edge. You can see where on the right side the velocity, which is the measurement of the wind, shows you there those bright greens is where we're seeing some of the strongest winds, and that's why they've gone ahead and issued the severe thunderstorm warning, because we're having numerous reports of trees down in the area. Rockingham County, North Carolina, 4 o'clock, tree down, and a metal shed took flight and slammed into a residence and caused damage on Strawberry Road in Reedsville. So that is one of the latest storm reports that we're getting in right now, and that was all caused by this guy right here, which is moving just as much to the south as he is to the east. And so you can see as we play the radar back over the course of the last hour or so what the situation has been unfolding here. Again, I want to read that storm report again that came in from Rockingham County. This is the same county that you'll remember we have suspected tornado damage from about 3:20 or so, but also now at an estimated time of about 4 o'clock, a tree came down. At the same time, a metal shed took flight and slammed into a residence and caused damage on Strawberry Road in Reedsville. It does not mention whether or not there were any injuries with this. I will hopefully take out of this that there aren't, because if there were, that would probably have been included in that update from the National Weather Service, passing along some of those storm reports here. We also have multiple trees down as we look towards Chatham County, North Carolina. Multiple trees down on residence roads and power lines down western Chatham County. And you know, we have situations like that throughout the area, and it's not even just where the hardest hits areas are. I mean, these tropical storm force winds carry all the way towards Charleston County, South Carolina, where a tree fell on a home. Palmetto Hall area of Dunes West. A little to no damage was done in this particular instant, but it just goes to show how far-reaching this is. Berkeley County, South Carolina. We also have trees down as well here in the Charlotte area. We have multiple trees down, and that's leading to power outages and some localized road closures where I am sitting as we continue our live storm coverage here at 4:30. We have received confirmation that the governor of North Carolina will be speaking at, I think it was 5:05 p.m. to be precise, so a little after the 5 o'clock hour, and we will bring that to you right here on the live platforms of the Carolina Weather Group. We're also going to continue to watch this severe thunderstorm warning, which will continue for the next hour or so. We will leave radar up for you, but I'm going to take a quick swig of some water here, and we will be back with continuing coverage of Tropical Storm Michael from the Carolina Weather Group.